Well, good morning. Good morning. If I could ask everybody to have a seat. I appreciate everybody making it out to this event. Certainly seeing this number of folks is encouraging, and again, we appreciate it. I'm Jim Brown. I'm the president of the Bank of Bennington. I have the honor of representing the Bennington Redevelopment Group here today, which is the group of businesses, nonprofits, and individuals who got together to pursue this Putnam project. A couple pieces of housekeeping. There are additional seats in Old Castle, along with accessible bathrooms, and we thank the Bennington Performing Arts Center for that access. There is also a live feed of this on the screen in Old Castle, thanks to Mike Cutler and Cat TV. Appreciate that. There is, fortunately, a live construction site behind us, which means we can't have any tours today. Apologize for that. But we also need to respect the fencing there. It's there for our safety, okay? So thank you all for joining us here today. This has been a long time coming. It's been a long journey. It's a journey that started several years ago with many conversations about what to do about the decline in Bennington. We were watching the Main Street empty, vacant storefronts, vacant second floors, third floors, employers having problems attracting employees to Bennington, retaining employees in Bennington. But there wasn't a unique problem to Bennington. It's a rural community problem, and you're seeing it across Vermont and across the country. But we needed to know what could we do to help Bennington. So our group got together, and it became clear to us that the best way to do that was to make a bold investment in Bennington. One that will be transformative, both now and going forward in the future. That project was the Putnam project, taking an entire block of downtown, doing the environmental remediation that was needed to take a site that has been underutilized for more than a generation, rehab the historic buildings and bring in commercial tenants and residential tenants in downtown. Change the story of Bennington from one of decline to one of renewal, bringing some energy, momentum, vibrancy, and making it an attractive downtown. I do need to thank some folks who we would not be this far if they hadn't been with us all along. First is Bill Colvin, who's been with us in his quiet leadership. He has been key. He's been with us from the beginning and keeping us organized, motivated, moving forward, and we really do appreciate all he's done. I also need to thank Bob Stevens, Craig Miskovich, M&S Development. They've led us through this to make this a reality, and they've led us through some difficult obstacles along the way, so I appreciate that. And by the fact that this took 3 years, there have been difficulties along the way. This has not been easy, and there's a reason that no commercial developer was going to take this on. It doesn't make economic sense. But as an investment, if you look beyond the numbers and look at it's an investment in ourselves, our community, our collective future, it does make sense. And while the BRG group and some folks here are getting some praise, there are many people who have helped us along the way that we couldn't have done this without. And I can't possibly name them all now, so I want to give a collective thank you, because without everybody who's lent a hand in this project, we could not be here today, so thank you. And I'd also like to say that goes to the community at large. The support, the encouragement that we've had over the last 3 years to keep moving forward, finding ways to get this done and overcome those obstacles has given us energy to do that, and it's been key. And it's great to see the community get behind us on this. And we're not done. We're currently looking at the next phase of development, which is a new building construction right where you're sitting right now, to add to the story of the renewal of Bennington. We're looking forward to that. But right now, I think we can take a pause and take a minute and celebrate, appreciate, be proud of what our community's been able to accomplish when we work together. So thank you. And now I have the privilege and honor to welcome Governor Scott to the stage.
Well, thank you very much. What an exciting day. You know, I have the opportunity to go to a lot of groundbreakings, ribbon cuttings, and so forth. This has to be the largest I've been to since becoming governor, and probably before that as well. And it says it's a testament to what this project means, all the hard work that went into it, and those who are investing in it, and not just in monetary value. It's about investing in what we believe in here in this region. So I thank you for coming today. First of all, congratulations to the community, the region, and all the members of the Bennington Redevelopment Group. The Putnam Block is one of the most important economic development initiatives underway in Vermont right now. The fact is we need to give a helping hand to our economic centers outside of Chittenden County. Places like Bennington, Brattleboro, Rutland, Springfield, and many others, in order to re-energize our rural communities. Big projects take vision, they take commitment, and they also take, of course, a little bit of money. Not long after becoming governor, I was brought up to speed on the importance of this project, the Putnam Block, and the role it plays in revitalizing the region. I've seen and heard such great things about this efforts, like the work that Bill Colvin, Bob Stevens, and others were doing to line up funding sources, and I learned about why they were doing it. I know many of you have heard from folks like Tom D. And Jim Brown from the Bank of Bennington, who share these reasons as well. Simply put, regional economic centers, hubs like Bennington, need game-changing projects that support economic growth and long-term economic security. On my first day in office 2.5 years ago, I signed an executive order that laid out the 3 top priorities of my administration: to grow the economy, make Vermont more affordable, and protect the most vulnerable. These are as important today as they were then. The Putnam Block addresses each one of these priorities. And it takes partners like Vermont Rural Ventures, who stepped up to provide one of the largest new market tax credit allocations in its history. I also want to thank the developers for including new housing in both Phase 1 and Phase 2. No matter where I go in the state, housing is brought up as an obstacle to growth and affordability. That's why I worked with the legislature, the treasurer, and VHCB to enact our state's first housing bond. The $37 million bond, which leveraged another $65 million in private assets, currently has about 600 units of new housing on the market, including 9 of the units that will be built right here. These 9 homes will target households with incomes between 80 and 120% median income. And I want to thank Gus Seelig, who's here, and the VHCB team for making this happen. That's why a little over a year ago, when my administration was told the Putnam Block partners were having a hard time finding the last piece of the funding puzzle, I asked the Agency of Commerce, and in particular, Ted Brady, the Agency of Natural Resources, we have Peter Walk here as well, and other statewide entities, do all they could to help fill that gap and make sure this project moved forward. In the end, the state will commit about $3 million in Phase 1, which includes federal Vermont Community Development funding, Vermont Downtown tax credits, and brownfields funding from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. I want to also make sure we highlight and thank our congressional delegation. I see my good friend Peter Welch here as well, for partnering in this project, because it wasn't any one person that pulled this all together. It was everyone pulling in the same direction and making sure we had the federal community development and EPA funds to invest. I hope everyone here understands that without the federal government's new market tax credit program, the newly enacted Opportunity Zone program, which I believe Putnam Block is one of the first to use in Vermont, and federal historic tax credits, a project like this couldn't have been accomplished and wouldn't happen without them. Senators Sears and Campion have also been strong supporters of the development tools Bennington is using today. especially the downtown tax credit program that we successfully expanded this legislative session, and Representative Morrissey, who's been a strong partner in this effort as well. I want to take a special thanks to Bennington County's entire legislative delegation, but especially those that represent Bennington proper, including Representatives Carroll, Bates, Corcoran, and again, our good friend, Mary Morrissey. We've had a lot of issues to work on together over the past few years, and I want to acknowledge the work you do, all you do, to represent the people of Bennington County and do it fairly well. In the end, we all have the same goal. In Bennington, we want Bennington County to be a stronger, more vibrant, and more affordable place to live, work, and raise a family. Finally, I look forward to coming back to Bennington for Phase 2, which will use tax incremental financing, or what is called a TIF district. I think it's important, though, to point out, and we're going to have to work on this, because there are some in Montpelier who have raised concerns about this tool, and others have called for a delay. My hope is that this won't slow us down, and that more communities will be able to use this financing option to accelerate desperately needed revitalization throughout the state. Because the fact is, Burlington, Winooski, and Milton, 3 communities in Chittenden County, have benefited greatly from TIFs and the investments it's brought to their downtowns. And it shows. If you go there, it shows. I believe, as a matter of principle, that our economic growth should be fair and equitable for all communities in every region. That means communities like Bennington, Barry, Springfield, and Bellows Falls, and others deserve the same opportunities and access to this investment tool. We can't jeopardize the kind of progress we're highlighting today. It's too important to Bennington and other communities across the state. So in conclusion, the Putnam Block is a great example of why we do the work we do and how to get it done. It shows it's possible to expand the type of economic activity we see in Chittenden County to other parts of the state. So congratulations to each and every one of you for bringing this together, pulling in the same direction. And thanks for letting me celebrate with you. Appreciate it.
Now, I'm very pleased that we have with us today Congressman Peter Welch.
I don't know if you were listening when Jim started his remarks, but this is a banker, and I hope your board wasn't listening, who said this economic development project of $56 million didn't make economic sense. But you know what? It makes sense for Bennington. It makes sense for our kids. It makes sense for the future of small town America. And at the end of the day, it's going to make sense economically as well, because it's only by investing in where you live, putting that stake in the ground, committing yourself to a future, doing the hard work that it takes to build this community, and to say that that anchor building is going to thrive again rather than wither and die. That makes spiritual sense. It makes community sense. It's what we must do. And you know, it's so exciting because we're all dispirited about what's going on the national scene. And the question people ask me more than anything else is, Peter, what do we do? Or what do I do? You're doing it. You're not letting what's going on nationally and what you see in the news and on the tweets every day get in the way of you getting up in the morning and figuring out, what can I do right here, right now, for this town of Bennington that's going to make it a better community, that's going to create some opportunity for our kids and for the future. And what we've done is we've done it by teamwork. I mean, starting with Governor Scott, who just put all the energy of the state resources behind getting across that last mile. The institutions of government that work for you have been put to work to help you. to our local institutions like the hospital. I mean, why is a hospital involved in economic development downtown? There's an insight here. If we have jobs, we have community civic life, we interact with one another, that happens to be good for our health, our physical health and our emotional health. And our legislators, you know, from Bennington, they're not shy. Your legislators are not shy. And they just persist. And it's really a reflection of the people in this town. You know, this economy is, for some folks, is working really well. For a lot of folks, it's not. And in small town America, the challenges are enormous. Whether it's Bennington or Springfield, where we had these industrial jobs and they've gone, there's real pressure. But there is something we have to remind ourselves, and Phil, you know this, being from Barrett, that folks from small towns have solid, enduring values that are so essential, not just to that community, but to this country. I saw John Miner here, still here, who's done so much work with vets who suffered from Agent Orange. And when you think about the contribution that our small towns have given to our country, where they step up and volunteer at a much greater percentage by population than elsewhere, it's those small town values that are so essential, not just to how we feel and how we live our life, but how this country endures. So there's a reason this is the biggest ribbon cutting you've been at, Governor. It's because this is the biggest deal that's going on right now in this state. This is important. And it's important because everybody here has made the only decision that's really important. You know, when you wake up and you're thinking about how bad things can be, you're worried about all the things that are out there, you can kind of pull the covers over your head and just get depressed, or you can get up and you can face the day and figure out what it is you can do. And everyone, from the state of Vermont through the governor, to our local institutions and our legislators, to our citizens like the Maras. And Jacqueline, you came back here. Tony told me you grew up here. You wanted to come back. You believe in it. And you even brought your husband along. And you have been investors. But that's what it takes to be successful. So I'm going to dispute you, Jim. This does make economic sense. It makes economic sense because it's not about a hedge fund deal where you're going to do some financialization and flip something and a few people are going to make money. It makes economic sense because we're all in it together. Everybody's doing what it is they can, from a very modest to a very significant contribution to people who've gotten recently involved, to Bill Colvin, who's been involved since 1999. And it's really important. It's really important to me. You know, it's tough in Washington now. You all know that. But where I get my hope is where you get your hope, is by seeing people who have challenges that are in front of them, facing the challenges, and doing it together, and committing themselves to a hopeful future. So I say thank you, and I say congratulations, and I look forward to coming back with Governor Scott at Phase 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Welch. It's good to know you'll have my back at my next board meeting. Our next speaker is from Senator Leahy's office, Chris Saunders.
Good morning, my name is Chris Saunders. I work for Senator Leahy here in Vermont on economic development, and it's a real treat to be here on his behalf. In talking with the Senator about today, he wanted to deliver a really simple message. When Bennington succeeds, Vermont succeeds. And that is a vision that's been guiding him throughout his work as he's visited this project now 3 times and met with the leaders. When Bennington succeeds, Vermont succeeds. It's been alluded to by the governor and the congressman, but I don't think it's hyperbole. You know, the success of this project is really going to determine not just the success of this community and the future of this community and the future of Southwest Vermont, but Vermont's future relies on this project being successful. And I think you can see that in what's been spoken about in terms of the number of people that have stepped up to the plate to say we're going to commit our statewide programs, our federal resources, our philanthropic resources to this project. This is a cornerstone project not just for this community, but for the entire state of Vermont. You know, when you look at this list, you see a lot of different programs and things that you know, really resound with the vision that this community has put forward in terms of investing in a livable, walkable downtown, an inclusive community where Vermonters of all income levels can participate in the revitalization, and a redevelopment of a core part of one of our keystone communities. And that's a vision that Senator Leahy has infused into his work in Washington. He's brought it into federal programs and federal policy, and I know he's really thrilled that so many of those programs are being tapped to make sure that this program moves forward. I think it's also a testament to the leadership. Folks have mentioned the tenacity of the redevelopment group and the legislators. You know, the commitment of that group to stay focused even when things have gotten tough is something that Senator has remarked on, and he knows is what is going to help drive this community to be successful. So his vision of Bennington being successful, meaning Vermont is successful, is going to bring him back for phase 2, is going to make sure that he's standing with you every step of the way as you get through this phase and the next one. More resources from EPA are already on the way for phase 2, and this is a great day to celebrate, so congratulations on behalf of Senator Leahy. I'd like to welcome at this time Sheila Reed from Senator Sanders' office.
Hi, everybody. Senator Sanders sends his congratulations to the community of Bennington for today's Putnam Block groundbreaking. He celebrates your plan to turn this historic downtown into a great public space, one where residents and visitors can work, reside, shop, enjoy food and entertainment within a walkable area. When done right, a vibrant downtown brings people together and builds economic opportunity for everyone, regardless of their income. The new Putnam Block is a hugely positive step toward doing just that, plus combating sprawl and the effects of climate change. Your community is an inspiration in the fight to make affordable, energy-efficient, and walkable downtowns available to the people of this region and the state. The Putnam Block is a development model of which you can be proud. I'm honored to represent the Senator today. He would love to be here himself, and he sends his best. Thank you. And our next speaker is Ben Alderton.
Good morning. I'm a project manager with U.S. Bank, and specifically the U.S. Bank Community Development Corporation. We're the division of the bank that makes tax credit investments and loans to finance affordable housing, economic development, renewable energy, and historic rehabilitation projects throughout the country. I want to echo the remarks and thank the incredible team of players that came together to make this project happen. There are too many to mention, but without the tireless work of so many, this transformation just couldn't have happened. U.S. Bank is proud to have played a part in such an important project. Our specific role was bringing new market tax credit, historic tax credit financing to the table. Both of these programs give us the opportunity to invest in economic development projects that truly make a difference in our communities. And Putnam Block is going to do just that for Bennington. The community support and sheer will to make this project a reality is truly unique, and it tells us a lot about this community. It tells us that you recognize that the renewal of your downtown core and the importance of it. And you understand that it requires investment to bring job creation, new businesses, services, and affordable housing to the core. One goal of the New Market Tax Credit Program is to drive capital to historically underserved and underinvested areas in need of revitalization. It is this revitalization of Bennington's downtown core that brings us here today. This project shows us that when private and public sectors work together, we can help close that gap between people and possibilities and bring about meaningful and lasting impacts in our communities. I want to congratulate the community of Bennington again. And I can't wait to return for the grand opening celebration and see what's next for this community. Thank you. And with that, I'll introduce Beth Lutine from Vermont Rural Ventures.
Good morning. I'm Beth Gutian with Vermont Rural Ventures, which is a community development subsidiary of Housing Vermont. And I'm really, really excited to be here today to celebrate with all of you, but also to have this opportunity to thank the so many partners in this project that were with this project from the beginning, from concept through the funding, and now in construction and then into implementation. Your collaboration, your teamwork and partnership, and your patience really made the entire funding process happen. Without that, we wouldn't have been able to move forward together with a solid plan in a complex redevelopment. You cared so much about this project. Everyone involved, and all of you here cared so much about this project. Your vision was able to become a reality through our teamwork together. As others have mentioned, the Vermont Rural Ventures $15.6 million investment of our new market tax credit allocation was our largest investment in our history of our program. And that is a true reflection of how we feel about our Vermont downtowns and how important investing in our Vermont downtowns is. And the investment we all made will truly bring impactful results to the town, to the residents of the development here, to the people shopping and eating and partaking in all the services that will be within the building as well. And for that, I thank you all. I thank you for the partnership, and I'm really excited to see what will happen as a result of this investment. So thank you, and the next speaker up is Michelle of Mascoma.
Good morning to Governor Scott, Congressman Welch, Putnam Block team, and the Bennington community at large. On behalf of Mascoma Bank and Mascoma Community Development, I'd like to thank the project team for including us in this exciting project. As with many new market tax credit projects, it's been a long and complicated road to reach this point. It is without a doubt that reaching this event today took a lot of creative thinking, a lot of problem solving by everyone involved. For that, we are grateful for our partner CDEs, VRV, and Mid-City, to the investor, US Bank, and to many lending partners, including Vita, in the town of Bennington, for working together to make this happen. I'd like to extend my thanks to the rest of the Mascoma Bank and Mascoma Community Development teams, our Director Dick Jennings, Deb Blanc, Patty Monahan, Darcy Lucero, and Katie Ann Washburn. Not all of them could be here today. Each of which plays an important role in the work that we do. To the members of the Bennington Redevelopment Group, it is your tenacity and dedication to the town of Bennington that is driving this project, and we celebrate with you and say congratulations to all of you. Thank you. Your next speaker is Michael Shirley.
Michelle is a liar, for I am not Mike Sterling, but I am his deputy. So I'm Ted Brady, and I'm the Deputy Secretary for the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. And congratulations to the BRG, to the development team, to the town of Bennington, to the total community in the entire county of Bennington County. It's been said, but I want it to be clear, this is the most important thing happening in rural economic development in the state of Vermont, period. Now, why do I say that? I say that partially because it's literally the biggest thing. The largest piece of property, the largest dollar figure, yes. However, it's bigger because it is a model that is replicable. And I'm not talking about a few 100,000 square feet. I'm not talking about the way this project physically looks. I'm talking about the system that has developed. So while I think Bill Colvin is a wonderful guy, where are you, Bill? Right there, yeah, you can clap for him again. And I think Bob Stevens is a wonderful guy. Let's be clear. They are nothing if not for this crazy ecosystem that has been created down here, for the connective tissue that has been created down here. The governor and I are working with the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston currently to bring a challenge to the state of Vermont. It's called the Working Communities Challenge. We actually announced this 2 months ago. And it's under the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston obviously holds billions of dollars in their basement. It's very hard to get into, so don't try. But what they also hold is this really incredible research arm that does work on community and economic development. And they had this theory. They said something's going on in post-industrial cities in our country where some are succeeding and some are failing. And they said, I have a hypothesis. We think it's industry mix, we think it's geographic location. And they did years of research, and they produced this document that debunked their entire theory. And there was only 2 things that mattered in the towns that were succeeding, that seriously differentiated the Golden Triangle of North Carolina and the post-industrial wastelands of Massachusetts, right? Some of these cities are really struggling to come back. At some point in these communities' histories, there was leadership and there was collaboration on a common economic vision. And it can be tiny. This is the crazy thing. It can be the smallest vision. It could be a block in a neighborhood. Does that sound familiar, Bennington or Rutland? It could be a project like the one we're working on here today. But ultimately, that collaboration and leadership and that common vision led to a game changer and a different history for that community. And it's pretty easy to see where it hasn't happened. So yeah, it's the biggest thing happening in rural economic development, not because of the Putnam block, but because of the partners, because of the investors, the private people that put their own money in this project, the community partners like the state, like the Vermont Community Foundation, like Efficiency Vermont, that said, yes, this is something we need to be part of. Not because, this is really important, not because of the project, but because of the people. Money follows great ideas, but money follows great communities and great groups of people even better. So I need to do a little thank you to a few people you should all know. So the governor talked about some of those state resources that came in the door to this project. There are a few people in this room that work tirelessly to make sure those resources do show up. And all of them are oversubscribed and overworked. Welcome to state government. I want to first thank Josh Hanford, our interim commissioner of the Department of Housing and Community Development. Josh, I saw you. Where are you? You gonna wave? Oh, Josh, right in front of you. Some of you know Katie Buckley, who's now M&S, was our commissioner, but abandoned us. Josh and I hold hard feelings. But then, yeah, her leadership, both at the agency and M&S, has helped us get here as well. I want to thank Josh's team, specifically Caitlin Corkins. Caitlin, where are you? Caitlin's right next to Josh. So Caitlin administered the $1.3 million in downtown tax credits, as well as the federal historic tax credits that this project's using and utilizing. We can't thank the congressional delegation enough for those resources. Patrick Schell. Patrick, are you with us? Patrick is the Community Development Program Director, a specialist that led this project. Laura Treichman, the Division of Historic Preservation Director. Yeah, you're getting your own round of applause. Elizabeth Peebles from the Division of Historic Preservation. And then we have another great thing that's happening across New England. with EPA resources, which is the redevelopment of underutilized properties because they're contaminated with things that we did to them in the past. And that's through the Brownfields program. And Christy Farnham from the Department of Economic Development is with us. Yes, we'll give it up for Christy. And of course, Quinn Mann from the Department of Housing and Community Development that helps do the environmental review. And that's not to mention the incredible infrastructure of our regional planning commissions. Little thing you might not know, a planning commission that does not begin with Bennington invested EPA dollars into this project. Wyndham Regional Commission invested funds into this project as well. You see people like Paul Brune, can't thank the Preservation Trust of Vermont enough. This network is replicable, that is my point. I think I've said it enough. So on behalf of the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, congratulations. We're proud to be part of this, and we'll be bragging on this for years to come. It's my great pleasure now to introduce a man who needs no introduction, Gus Seelig from the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board. Gus.
I got to lower the microphone after Ted. I'm going to do a bunch of thank yous, and when you speak after the governor and our congressman, you got to readjust what you're going to say because so many people have covered so much. But I need to start by thanking Governor Scott and the legislature and the Bennington delegation because there'd be no $37 million revenue bond for us to have made an investment here without your leadership. And I need to thank Congressman Welch because as the president of the Senate 30 years ago, you took a chance on a crazy idea that the housing community and the conservation community could work together and created the board. And I want to especially thank Housing Vermont and Vermont Rural Ventures because every project has its bumps in the road, and when this one had a big bump in the road, Beth and her boss, Nancy Owens, decided to double the investment in this deal, and it's the largest investment they've ever made and the largest part of this deal, so thank you guys so much. I first heard about this project at a Smart Growth conference that VNRC put on, and Bob and Bill were presenting on it before there was a revenue bond, and it was just so exciting, the vision. And the work Bob did over in Brattleboro to save the Brooks House, I think, made the idea that this could happen possible. And so thanks to both of you. And then I don't see him here today, maybe he is, but is Dick Sears here? I just want to say you have a great delegation, but as somebody who's walked into the Appropriations Committee for the last 30 years asking for resources that I could send back to communities, nobody walks into Senator Sears' room without him saying, what do you know about my community? What are you going to do for my community? He's tough, he's fair, he's passionate for all of you, and you all owe him thanks. I wouldn't be here without him pushing all the time. Is there more to be done for Bennington? Our role is pretty simple, which is we receive funds from the state government and some from the federal government, and our job is to get your tax dollars back to you. And it's not just this project, there have been a whole bunch. About 4 or 5 years ago, we talk about a banker saying this makes no economic sense. Bill appeared in front of our board on the Morgan Street wetlands, and he argued that it would be great economic development because it would be an enhancement that would bring people to Bennington. He's really creative then, and he continues to be creative. But there's something going on in Bennington. You've got the most active Habitat for Humanity chapter in the state of Vermont, building a lot more than a dozen houses over the last few years. You've got a group up the road that just protected Prospect Mountain. There's a new renewal project going on in Arlington. We'll break ground in just a few more weeks, just over the North Bennington line for 22 more homes in Shaftesbury. So lots and lots is going on in this community. When I think about what makes this possible, and we do this, as people have said, in a time that every rural community is struggling, when there is so much anger and division, I think back, Mr. Marrow, to a fellow you knew, my mentor, Ben Collins, who I worked for. And the lesson he gave me, he really gave me my graduate education in public policy and program development and community development, is it doesn't matter what laws you pass, what programs you develop, what resources you can bring people to bear. What really counts is that you create what he called a conspiracy of goodwill. And if what is going on here isn't a conspiracy of goodwill, I don't know what is. So everybody needs to give yourselves a hand for what you've done here. It's really, really impressive. If anybody wants to know, can the federal government, state government, local government, private investors, and the private investors, look at that list, even includes the Vermont Energy Investment Corporation, the Vermont Natural Resources Council. If anybody wants to know, can all that work together? I say come to Bennington and see what's going on here. What you do for me, as somebody walks into the State House every day when they're in session and you see the state motto emblazoned and it says freedom and unity, you've defined what freedom and unity is all about. Congratulations. I look forward to coming back for a great grand opening and for many more great projects in this community. Well done. And now you need to hear from Stu Hurd. Oh, Stu's not here, Don Campbell.
Well, Stuart is here in spirit, but he is at a sewer meeting right now, making sure that we have adequate sewer for all of the good things that are going to come through this project. Our town manager, Stuart Hurd, and our assistant town manager, Dan Monks, who's back there, both need to be acknowledged as people who really kept this going even before the redevelopment group was working on this project for probably a decade. They were working on trying to move this forward. And it's all incremental, but here we are today. So a brief hand for our manager and town manager. So 2 people celebrating Bennington Battle Day go into a bar. My wife is cringing. The first one says, "Why is the Bennington Battle Monument made of stone?" The second one replies, "To permanently remind us of those who fought for our freedom." The first one says, "Why is the monument so wide?" The second one replies, "So the winds of change don't tip it over to be forgotten." The first one asks, "Well, why is the monument so tall?" And the second one says, "Oh, that was so all the suits and politicians could see it from Montpelier and know how to get here." Today, I am pleased to say that there are few suits and politicians in Montpelier because they're all here celebrating with us today. Everybody. As Congressman Welch said, we are all in this together. On behalf of the Bennington Select Board, let me thank everybody who joined us here today. We welcome you. We welcome the world. We welcome this day when we can finally say, downtown Bennington will see the Putnam block completely revitalized for all to enjoy. So maybe the best thing about Bennington Battle Day is that it reminds us of what a few citizens can do in the face of daunting odds when they rally together and fight for what they believe in. Although this has ended up being a highly successful and complex public-private partnership, it all started with the local individuals who said, "We believe in Bennington." Looking at you, Jim. In the spirit of Seth Warner, Molly Stark, and Sip Ives, the Black Patriot who was one of 30 Green Mountain Boys to give their lives in the Battle of Bennington, citizens from our community have been determined to see this through no matter the odds. So thank you to our New Age Green Mountain people, all of you who are so passionate about Bennington's future, who have fought so hard and stretched so far to make this happen. August 16th may be the Bennington Battle Day, but let August 7th be remembered as Bennington's Putnam Block Day, both truly important victories. Thank you. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce one of the best starters and closers, Bob Stevens.
Thank you, everyone. Is there any chance Steve Putnam from Mid-City is here? We had Steve, would you like to come up? We're putting you on the spot at the last minute. Steve is with Mid-City, one of our other CDE lenders, so thank you for
Hi, thank you, Bob. And yeah, I'm Steve Putnam. I'm here on behalf of Urban Atlantic. It's a subsidiary CDE Mid-City. We're a national group that works in low-income communities, just like Bennington, and are thrilled to be a small portion of providing some of the new markets, tax credit financing, that's filling some of the gap that was in the budget for the project. But first, I want to extend and I should say our sincere congratulations to really to everybody, to the project team, all of our financing partners who were there with us throughout the closing. But most importantly to the community, because this project is really, at the end of the day, all about you. We're, like I said, we're thrilled to be just a small part of this. We're a national organization that's been investing in communities like this for over 20 years. So we've seen a lot of projects, and particularly focus on projects that have local, state, regional collaboration, and I think there's been a fair amount that's been said about that this morning, and this project really epitomizes kind of that whole community, collaboration. So, so it's really a pleasure, and really proud to be a part of the project. And the spirit really has been evident from what this project means to the community from the beginning, since we've been involved, just given everybody who's been involved with the project, who's participating in it. So with that, I'm going to just keep it really short and just say, kind of on behalf of Mid-City and Urban Atlantic, just say congratulations again to the M&S team, to all of the financing partners, really, like I said earlier, most importantly to the community. So thank you.
So, thank you. My job. Thank you all for coming, and I'm going to try to, it's great coming at the end of all these speakers, because my list of thank yous got smaller, which I will start by apologizing. There are so many people that have collaborated, Governor Ted, others have said it so well. The only way that this was able to happen was to have this sort of ground ecosystem come behind this to pull this all together, and so many people that were involved. So it would take another hour, perhaps, for me to explain all of that. But I'm going to do my best to fill in some of the holes and maybe give you a little bit of the story, because of our involvement of knowing where the skeletons are buried, to tell you how we got here for the last 3 years. Let me again, just to reemphasize with the governor and the state, I think I counted 5 different programs at the end of the day that the state of Vermont were able to leverage to make this happen. And as the governor said, it was about 2 years ago, I think, we were at a standstill. We had literally been working on this project for a year. We had a gap of about $1 million, and we weren't sure we were going to solve that. And that meeting that the governor asked Ted and Secretary Sherling to put together was 35 people sitting around the table brainstorming how to solve this problem, because this was too important to fail in many ways. And out of that meeting, we found other ways to move this along, and here we are 2 years later. So those kinds of inputs are sort of key. So anybody who says the state or government can't get things done, just come to Vermont, because we can get things done in the state. So again, I want to reemphasize our congressional delegation. More than half of the money that's coming into this project are federal funds. These projects do not happen without that. So without our congressional delegation, our lending and investment partners, and we have a lot of them, and you've heard from some of them. They were, here speaking for a good reason, because again, without their support throughout this, there's no way that we could have, first of all, found the capital to put this together and had their help and resources to get through the underwriting and all the stuff that had to happen. And I'm going to try to, again, not do justice, but I'll quickly go through a little of the highlights First, U.S. Bank, our equity investor, Ben in particular. Ben lives in Boulder, Colorado, and he probably does 2 of these deals a month. And yet, Ben was always there for us when we got stuck or had a problem. He was our offline guy to tell us how to solve that. Great problem solver. Tom, his partner, kept finding a way to get us more and more capital. So U.S. Bank, thank you. BRV, as Beth said and the governor said, without your support to double down and do more than they've ever done before, we would have never gotten off the ground. It was really key to getting us back on the road to finding a way, the next 2 years, of finding a way to get this to close. So thank you again to BRV. Mascoma Bank. Mascoma Bank, also a CDE and our lender. All the allocation they had left, they gave to us, thank you. And they were great partners to lend to a project that is not an easy project to lend into. These are complicated, they're not low risk, and they kept working. I've never had a banker before who kept finding a way to lower their interest rate to help us solve our operating budget. So again, thank you. You probably don't want that to get out, I don't know. Mid-City, who is just up here, they're from Mid-Atlantic, who saw the energy and capacity of this community and said this would be a great thing, and they brought their resources up here to make this happen. So they've been a great partner throughout. So thank you to Mid-City. Okay, a couple of others, and this is, as I say, this is maybe the reason why I'm gray and it's taken 3 years, but 11th hour, we had a bridge financing problem that we needed to solve somehow. People's Bank found a way to solve that for us, for our downtown tax credits. So they stepped up, found a way to lend into a deal that was very complicated, that they weren't part of ahead of time, and helped us out. And the Bank of Bennington, for all they did, they're also a lender into the project. More about Bank of Bennington in a minute, but lender, tax credit buyer, Vermont Mutual Insurance, another tax credit investor. The list is quite long. I think, as Ted said, Windham Regional Commission, not Bennington, but Windham Regional Commission had capacity to loan for environmental cleanup and came over to Bennington to bring resources to help us, close another gap, which again was essential to having this come together. So those are, again, some of the partners that you haven't heard about today, or some that you have. I want to mention our Opportunity Fund. The Putnam Opportunity Zone Fund was an 11th hour, again, ability or capacity to bring some additional equity into this deal. Those members have sort of asked to not be in the limelight, but it's important to note that at the 11th hour, not only did they come in, bring capital, but also identified a way to perhaps bring equity to replace some debt that we were struggling to be compatible. So those are local community members who saw that this was important and really did not want this to fail. And I should mention, in your program, there's a list of preferred equity members. There's about 23 people on that list, and that's maybe half, because the other half of folks donated directly into the nonprofits, the hospital or Bennington College. And so there's close to 40 individuals who've made equity investments or donations to make this project happen. Those are local community members who had the faith, believed that this was a good thing to invest in for their future, and really want to thank them for their confidence to take the risk in this project. So. On that list, there's actually a couple I also want to highlight that perhaps are above and beyond. The Vermont Community Foundation, for one. I think Dan Smith is back there. They were a $500,000 preferred equity investor, but they, in addition to that, loaned us that money in the pre-development phase, before we got to close. Different risk profile, not a loan any bank would make to help us get to close, which is often the hardest money to find. So that was, I think, a new program for them, and we'd love to prove that we could do that again. Actually, that would be great. And the Preservation Trust of Vermont. I see Paul back there. They, for, I think what Paul tells me the first time, they've actually directly invested in a project. Paul is a connector. He's the guy that makes things happen, but they've taken a chance to actually bring some of their own funds towards this. And his words were, in a community, really, to get to a community who wants to invest in their downtown and the community coming together like that, if there's a way we can make that happen and replicate that, we see a future for this going forward. So thank you, Paul, and thank you for the question. Okay, so rolling on, Town of Brattle, Town of Bennington, Dan Mux, John Stewart, the Select Board. Every time we went to the Select Board, they found all the levers that they could pull to help this happen. We have loans from them, we have permits from them, we have brainstorming problems. They've always been behind this project. So again, thank you again to the town of Bennington for everything they've done to make this happen and all the work that happened before we got here. We've only been working on this 3 years. I know that the town has been working on this project for much, much longer than that. So again, thank you. I want to mention, and these are in your program, some folks that we refer to as our local partners. The Greenberg family agreed to sell this to us and then gave us a loan. I don't know how long that loan was supposed to be for, maybe a year, 2 years. 3 years later, they're still hung in there till the end of the closing with a lot of complication that they probably never bargained for. I think those family members, they inherited this property from their parents. They were ready to sell, but they held out to support this project because they wanted a legacy that reflected this property going on to something that would contribute to the community. So we want to have a thank you to the Greenbergs as well. I want to mention Old Castle Theater, who has purchased their property out of that and has been working with us from day one to make that their success. And their board, there's a lot of overlap in this community. Their board are also great supporters of the project. So thank you to Old Castle. Shires Housing as another partner to helping us with the housing. Stephanie's here, I think. So thank you, Shires. Hale Resources and TPW. John Hale has been helping us keep this property running in the meantime. TPW, again, a great connector helping us go forward. So all of those partners were essential and gives you some idea of how this sort of comes together. Thank you. So, I should mention, I think, the design team. So the design team is the other company through our shop. Stevenson Associates is the lead architect. We have great, this is a team sport, as they say. So we have a number of MSK Engineering, DuBois & King, John Penny, Union Studio, all this design team that, quite frankly, I think we designed it once. It was too expensive. We designed it again. These are complicated renovation projects in historic buildings as well. So that team has been in there fighting behind the scenes for several years now and doing the hard work to bring this to get together. And in addition to the design team, Breadloaf Construction. So they are the construction manager for the project. We are now sort of handing the ball off to them in the construction phase. But they played a crucial role in getting to this point as well in our cost estimating, finding, brainstorming, working, finding ways to bring the project into a budget that we could afford, and really working as a great partner both to get here and going forward. So again, thank you to Breadloaf. I think Mike is around here somewhere. Could not have done it without him. So a couple more. The development team, and I don't quite know how to divide these out. It's been mentioned about Bill Colvin. Bill, I see he's back there somewhere. I think Bill's been working on this project since he was in high school. He's been working on this a long, long time, and he saw a way to bring a community together, sort of modeled perhaps after what happened in Brattleboro, but really realized that the only way forward with this was to have a community come together and really recognize that in many ways this is his baby and his vision. So thank you, Bill. I don't know that it takes people, leaders like that, to make this come together. I mentioned briefly our team, M&S Development. It has been an honor to be part of this. It has been our job to try to make this happen. So our team has sort of lived, breathed. This is not really a job. This is a passion. You don't do this just because you wake up and say, I want to do this. So it's been an honor for us to be part of that. I do want to thank our team. They put above and beyond to get here, so thank you to the M&S group. And perhaps an unusual thank you, and he's told me to never do this, but I want to thank our attorneys. Never thank your attorneys, he said, but in this case, DRM, Craig Miskovich, who's in the back, and Shannon, who's in the back there. This could not have happened without them. Both their expertise in figuring out how to structure this deal, put the different things together, helping us manage this through this. There were some now funny scenes of the two of them running up and down the street here the day of closing when their internet crashed. In the middle of closing, perhaps some not swear words as well, but but it literally could never have happened without their expertise and their incredible dedication to finding a way to never give up and to believe that this could happen. So thank you to you. So, and again, one other thank you before I get to the last one, which is to the group that sort of put this event on. You know, these events are a little bit of effort. And of course, we were all totally focused on closing a month ago. And no way were we thinking about a groundbreaking event. So within a month, the work that put this together. So Betsy, Lynn Barrett, Katie, were all the sort of leaders of that effort. So thank you to the staff for a great event. And I want to say my last thank you to the Bennington Redevelopment Group, because this is really where that leadership, that group of people who came together, you know, we were part of that. We, I think, you know, had some expectations 3 years ago and said, here's how we think this might work, here's how we think it might be financed. And it was a different animal 3 years later. And as much as we kept going back and saying, okay, we've got a problem, how do we solve that? They met every 2 weeks for 3 years at 7:15 in the morning at the Bank of Bennington, and these are the leaders of those organizations, and kept and never gave up. It was not something that they were willing to let fail, and that's really the reason that we're here. We had at one point in the closing process, we realized I think there were 14 different entities that had boards that needed to review and approve and make a decision to support this project, and if that's 10 people per board, that's 140 people that had to decide that that was a good thing to do. And I think they did that in part because of the faith that this group of people were going to make it happen one way or the other. And that's really what this community needs. I think Ted said it best about, you know, the ability to sort of bring this ecosystem together to make a difference in the community are people like the Bennington Redevelopment Group. There's a Teddy Roosevelt quote that I really like, and it's not, this isn't the quote, but it's something like this. It says, it's better to dare mightily and fail than to not dare at all, essentially. And there were times I thought we might have failed. I won't say I thought we were, but there were times that somebody might have thought we were going to fail. Well, the Bennington Redevelopment Group dared mightily, and the town of Bennington is going to have a new downtown because of it. So thank you. And with that, I'd like to bring the Bennington Redevelopment Group up here. So all members, please come on up.
Hello, I'm Tom D. I'm President, CEO of Southwestern Vermont Healthcare. Thank you for being here. And there's one more person we want to bring up here who we've talked a lot about today, but as we heard from Bob, there were some dark times we had to deal with, some very dark times. And I remember saying to the group, we have to go see the governor because we need his help. And he dropped everything and saw us right away. And I still remember meeting with him. And he says, well, you know, what can I do to help? And he quickly pulled together many, many individuals, talented people are here today. And then he made this event happen. And I'd like to have him come up here to receive a small memento of our appreciation for all of his work and for today and for the future of our downtown project.
I guess that concludes our program. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. Thank you for all your support.
Come on.